In what appears to be a huge move on Legendary Entertainment's part, Deadline today just reported that Legendary has completed a buyout of one of their partners, one of their stakeholders, the Wanda Group, who is based out of China and has had a huge influence on the MonsterVerse and on Legendary as a whole. If you are familiar with their box office presence in China, Wanda is likely very responsible for a lot of that success. I'll be sure to link the article down in the description down below, but I wanted to break down some of the key points of what exactly has happened here and what the implications are for the future of Legendary and the MonsterVerse. Some of it is very optimistic, some of it a little bit cautionary, they'll have to be a little bit careful moving forward. So it seems that Legendary has bought out the Wanda Group, using, it was a cash transaction, which is is very impressive to think about. They haven't specified the amount, but it's going to be in, the hundreds of millions of dollars, if not billions. And it being a cash deal means that Legendary basically has money to throw around. Now, Legendary is still co-owned by their own management and this group called the Apollo Group, which is a private equity firm. They basically inject a bunch of money into a company in exchange for being able to steer the ship a little bit. So now it's still co-owned, but it's now just 2 parties instead of 3 parties. Now, Legendary seems to be seeing this as a really great move in terms of their sort of strategic expansion. We got the news earlier this year that Monarch Legacy of Monsters was going to have season 2 and then a bunch of spin-offs. And so the CEO, Josh Grote, is now saying that this is going to be a crucial step in being able to do that. And I guess that makes sense. If you don't have a third equity partner that you need to be constantly paying out, there's more money for the actual business itself, and you can, use that money to fund some of that growth. Legendary saying that they have secured an $800 million credit facility in 2023 to help fund its growth, and that they retain a lot of liquidity, which means they just have a lot of money that's at their disposal. It's not tied up in stocks or anything like that. Now, let's see. One of the big things that, Wanda Group's influence had on the MonsterVerse and on Legendary as a whole is representation in China, right? Obviously, if you have a partner in China, they're going to work very hard to advertise the movie, market the movie, and make sure that make sure they're getting a return on their investment. But with Wanda out of the picture, Legendary seems optimistic. They do have their how do they say it here? They have a Beijing-based subsidiary, Legendary East, which will still be responsible for marketing and distributing the film in China. So hopefully the exit of Wanda Group will not influence the international box office for future MonsterVerse films. As we know, that the international box office is very, very big source of box office success and revenue for these films, and they need to continue to be successful. Doesn't seem like Legendary is too concerned about that at all. They do mention that this was a big year for Dune and Godzilla, that they were hugely popular. They do mention that there's a Minecraft and a Street Fighter movie coming out, which, sure, we'll see. And Legendary's creative team seems to be very optimistic. They've maintained control of the company's content even when Wanda was the owner. And, now that Wanda's firmly out the door, they're going to maintain that creative control. So that's all great stuff, right? Like, in terms of things that are good about this article, this news, so Legendary maintains their creative freedom. They don't have that influence from a third partner. It's just them and this Apollo Group. So that's always nice. The saying, too many cooks in the kitchen. Now we've gone down from 3 to 2. Even though they're saying that Wanda didn't really have any influence, well, maybe. We'll see. So there's that. They're really focused on franchise growth, which is always good to see. Like, we've got 3 TV shows, coming from Monarch Legacy of Monsters. We've got the next MonsterVerse film coming 2027. They're already on, early development for that. If there's a possibility that even more can come out of Legendary, that's great. That's awesome to hear. Them being able to have Legendary East in China and marketing the movie and working to make sure that these things are successful overseas despite Wanda's exit. That's awesome. And then, yeah, you've got the best year, I think. I don't know if they said it here that it was the best year, but they said it was a really solid year for Legendary, and you have enough liquid assets to buy out your partner. You know, hopefully having fewer cooks in the kitchen is able to get stuff out in a more timely manner. Now, some things to consider that are, tricky. Legendary might have to navigate a little bit here. There's going to be a little bit more focus on like financial pressure. Like, you've just spent a whole bunch of money buying out your third partner who injected a bunch of money back in 2016. And so, like, you're going to need your TV shows, your movies, you're going to need those to be really successful fiscally. So that could put a strain. Like, you want to expand, but your expansion needs to be profitable. So that is certainly a concern here. What else did I have here? I have some notes here. I just wanted to make sure I cover. In terms of strategic priorities, like, if you are expanding into, they have the MonsterVerse, do you make the Duneverse, right? Do you make a bunch of Dune spin-off movies, spin-off TV shows? Like, at some point, if they consider the MonsterVerse not as profitable, then, it might get the short end of the stick as they try to build out some of their more successful brands. Now, Legendary East is going to be continuing their operations over in China, based out of Beijing. I don't think that they are a complete substitute for Wanda Group. My understanding is that it was Wanda Group and Legendary East pushing for success overseas. But now it seems like it's just Legendary East rather than Legendary and Wanda. So here's hoping that Legendary East is able to pick up their share of the marketing and getting this film promoted and getting people into the seats to actually make sure that the things are successful. And then, when you have somebody leave let's say the table of influence, right? You've gone from 3 partners down to 2. That second partner might be looking funny at Legendary, being like, oh my gosh, like, am I going to be the next one out? So, there might be some dynamics behind the scenes that are uneasy, but hopefully that doesn't influence the future of Legendary's output and of the MonsterVerse. So, Overall, I think that this is a really good thing for Legendary. That the fact that they're able to stand on their own. And I just typically think that fewer people in the kitchen is a better thing overall. So them going down from 3 partners down to 2, to me, is good. There are some things they're going to have to navigate, obviously. It seems like they've come into this amount of cash following a very successful year for Dune and Godzilla. And I hope it's not just them saying, yeah, we're going to use all that cash to expand all our franchises. I don't necessarily want them to like go and try a bunch of new things. Like what happened with Marvel post Phase 4 or post Phase 3, right? Post Endgame. They expanded and they put out more content than we've ever had before. But I think the vast majority of people would argue that all of that content was very underwhelming in comparison to what came before it. So I'm hoping that they don't take this as like the sign to make a ton of stuff. I'd rather see a couple of amazing projects than like a dozen of mediocre projects. So hopefully that makes sense to you. I'll put the article in the description down below for you to read yourself. Is there anything about this news that excites you? Is there anything about it that concerns you? Let me know in the comment section down below. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll talk to you again soon. Bye-bye.